Welcome to the Real Women, Real Business podcast, where we believe you don't have to choose between doing what you love and building something truly successful. Each episode, we cut through the noise to show you exactly where your energy should go, how to eliminate what's keeping you stuck, and most importantly, how to tell the difference between what's actually making you money and what's just keeping you busy. Around here, we're all about helping you to work smarter, build stronger, and dream bigger. You've already built something amazing, but if it feels like you're stuck in a cycle of back to back calls, half finished launches, and late nights just trying to catch up, you're not alone. Most women start their businesses with passion and drive, but somewhere along the way, they start settling for good enough. They want more, but worry it will cost them too much. And let's be honest, we spend so much time thinking about how to help others, we start feeling guilty for wanting to build real wealth or prioritize our own goals. That's exactly why I created the Real Women, Real Business Mastery Program to help ambitious women like you stop settling for just enough and start building a business that's truly aligned, where passion, profits, and progress work together, because making more doesn't mean sacrificing more. It means building smarter with the right support and the right strategies. If you're ready for sustainable success in a business you actually love running, book your free coaching assessment at aboutShaunaLynn.com/coachmate. Let's explore what's possible together. Hello and welcome back to the Real Women, Real Business podcast. Today I am joined by Abby Bradetich, founder of Luminescence Creations. And Abby is an embodiment-led brand and web designer and content coach. She's got over 15 years in marketing and design and a background in professional dance. And what she helps women to do is actually to stop performing online, because we're all doing this kind of performance act online, whether we know it or not. Sometimes she helps them to ditch the so-called rules and build an online presence that really feels like them and actually works. And I can't wait to dig into this conversation. I think you're all going to love it. So Abby, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to talk with you because I absolutely love, I think you and I have connected on a few different things, but I love the way that you help women to really show up authentically. And I've talked with other guests about this buzzword of authenticity that has been so overused the last several years that almost feels disingenuous now when you say the word
Yes.
authentic, but it is really what you're doing. So let's start with a little bit about your origin story, because you've got kind of a cool story where you went from dance to marketing and created this whole brand around it. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on the whole authenticity word thing, and I hate that too because I'm like but it's real. It's what we're doing here, but
Right.
it has like gotten this whole like taboo idea around it. But yeah,
Mm.
I grew up dancing and loved that. My family's very artistic, so it was really encouraged for us to actually pursue those types of things. So I did get my degree in college in dance.
Okay.
And the whole time though, like although my parents were very supportive, like grandparents and society and people around were like, that's not a real job. Like you're gonna have to do something else. And I did know like the realities, especially because I was in modern dance, like it is very like, you're not gonna make a lot from it. And I still wanted to have a passion that and a job that I could pursue that was in the creative world. And in high school and college, I was on the yearbook and learned graphic design, learned marketing, learned copywriting, all of that stuff, and was like editor in chief and really loved that whole role and world, and just kind of naturally fell into design and marketing freelance work after college, during college. And always like alongside other jobs, I was always like bopping around doing a bunch of things because with dance, you kind of have to have a very flexible schedule. And I always knew I was not made for a 9 to 5 job. Corporate, I just knew my whole life that was not going to be for me. So I've never technically had a 9 to 5. I've like worked in creative, yeah, realms and for different types of people. And during COVID, when everything shut down, dance was gone for me. That was, yeah,
Mm.
after dancing professionally for 5 years, it was kind of over. And freelance work was really what kind of got me through. And so during 2021, he was my boyfriend at the time. My husband was like, why don't you just do your actual like own thing? Why don't you build a business from what you're doing right now? And, I procrastinated way longer than I probably should have on
As creatives do.
it, as we all do, and, wanted the perfect name or whatever and stuff like that. And it was a lot of, kind of the imposter syndrome stuff. But eventually I did start my own business at the end of 2021 and yeah, have never looked back. I know for a fact I could literally never do anything else. I love it so much.
Oh, that's amazing. I love hearing that. And I think that's probably speaking a lot to our audience, which is made up of all these accidental CEOs who
Yeah.
followed a passion. And, it wasn't always a perfect path. And I think, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I speak to have this whole like, I had no idea I was going to do this. Like, similar to you might have known that they weren't best suited for working for someone else and wanted to work for
Yeah.
themselves, but still didn't, the career that they're in today isn't necessarily what they thought that they were going to do. But I love that dance brought you to marketing. I mean, what a great transition. It's such a great way to express yourself through your promotions, through your online presence, through the way that you show up online. And so to be able to translate that not only for yourself, but for your clients is a great way to tap into that creativity that you built up through dance. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved everything about it. And people always ask me like, "Oh, do you miss dance or anything like that?" And like I still dance for myself. I use it in the work that I do with people, especially when it comes to embodiment and mindset. And also like I felt like I couldn't give that level of energy and time into two things, both my business and dance. It was like kind of like at the
Mhm.
point where I was just like one or the other. And I think COVID just sort of helped me yeah, become that accidental CEO where I was just like, well, I guess I'm doing this now. Let's do it. You know?
And here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Well, and you talk about the embodiment and your mindset and your dance, and I mean, like movement is such an important part of our lives, of our health, of our business, and I think that is often underrated,
Yeah.
and it can help to really build your confidence, and by moving your body in a way that feels comfortable for you. How do you incorporate some of that into the work that you do or the work that you do with your clients, like whether it's in your own business or with your clients? How do you incorporate some of that?
Yeah, I have built a what I call a content support ecosystem, which is called Magnetic by Nature, and it's essentially like three different levels of like content coaching for people. And within that, I have a whole resource hub where I provide those types of mindset and embodiment practices where we actually do like the guided improvs together, like the shaking your body to actually release the emotions, meditation and yoga and all kinds of different practices that have helped me in my life and have helped a lot of people that I know. And it's the type of thing that it's there for people to use. And I recommend it whenever like a client comes to me with something that they're dealing with. I'm like, this would actually be a really great thing for you to try. And because it's so important to me and I want those resources to be there for other people. And especially when it comes to content, like that's the sort of thing that matters more than, what you're saying. It's also about like the energy that is going into it and how you're feeling behind it. And that's what I focus on. So that's where we start across the board with like any of my content coaching clients is just doing it that way. Like brand and web design matters too, because like, there's confidence and transformation and mindset things that are happening there, but it's less of the embodiment piece compared to the content where it's way more embodiment driven.
Well, and I love that though, because the energy that you're bringing online. I mean, I know this as someone who does a lot of public speaking and a lot of business coaching, and even, I mean, from my design background as well, interior design, meeting with clients, like the energy that you bring will dictate the success of your message, whatever that message is. It's not necessarily about marketing, but if I go and meet with one of my design clients, for example, and I show up and I'm all frazzled, I'm like, oh, traffic was just awful and I'm showing up late and I'm stressed out already. Well, I'm now about to stress out the client, and chances are
Yeah.
they're not going to have a good experience, and they're not going to, my message about whatever it is that I'm presenting to them, whether it's a design concept or whatever, is going to be lost on them. And so it's something that I've always, Tony Robbins talks a lot about managing your state, is the way that he puts
Mm,
it. And not that I follow a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, but that's one thing that I've always really appreciated, of just the energy that you have showing up. People will feed off of that. And it needs to be
absolutely.
authentic. You can't just fake energy. You have to legitimately find that energy. So having tools to be able to do that, I don't think people have really thought about how that relates into your content strategy and how you're showing up online. But it's so true that your energy needs to be authentic, or it's not going to translate to your audience. They're not going to connect with you. They're not going to resonate with you. And so that's a
Absolutely.
big step in being real, I'm sure, online.
Yeah, no, it's a huge part of like not only having it so that you have the confidence to show up authentically online, but also so that you're showing up from a place that feels good. That's what the main thing I say I talk a lot about, and it's what I do with my clients because like the only way you're going to be consistent showing up online is if it feels good to you. And that
Right.
means not just in your mind, it also means your body. And if you are creating from a place of, oh, I have to, or pressure, or forcing it, like that comes through in your content too. Like people can feel that.
Right.
And maybe people think it's a little woo, but like I do lean that way a bit in terms of thinking, like, but energy is palpable even through a screen. And so the more that you can, lift your energy up and reset yourself if you're feeling frazzled or off that day, or, just making sure that you're feeling your best, then the better things are going to feel to create, the more fun you're going to have with it. Like for me, creating content's not a chore. Like I love it. And it's not just because like I, should say that or whatever.
Right.
Like I actually do genuinely enjoy it. And it's because I don't force it whenever I don't feel like doing it, and like I've got
Mhm.
a system that's set up to allow me to do that, but also like I've embodied that energy of being able to feel safe showing up online as my real self. And a lot of that, yeah, comes back to mindset and embodiment for me.
Okay, so if someone's saying to you like, "Well, I hate showing up online," you're saying that potentially that's coming back to where their whole mindset is, like they're not prepping themselves in a way. Like, so if someone comes to you and says, "Well, I hate showing up online," what's their solution? Like, how do we not hate showing up online?
Yeah, no, and it's the thing is that it's so personal for every person. And that's why I like to start with, okay, like, what do you love about social media? What do you hate about social media? Like, what do you actually not, what do you somewhat enjoy creating, even if you hate showing up online? Like, what is like the lowest level of entry is usually where I like to start with people, because then you can build from that and you can start trying new things and putting yourself out there more and get more comfortable with it. But like, where are you like, okay, I can actually create this and I can try this, and allowing that to be like your entry point in, instead of focusing on, usually it's coming from this overwhelm, this consumption. And that's always another place I start with clients is like, stop consuming content. Because what I tell
Oh,
people, it's like, we all say that, but it's so true. And people love to come to me like, oh, I have no ideas. And I'm like, I promise you have ideas inside of you. You just don't give yourself enough time to actually let them out. So one of the
right.
other things that I love to tell people to do is go on free brain space walks where you literally go with no podcast, no music, no nothing, literally just you and your thoughts. And I promise
Hmm.
by the end of 30 minutes, you will have some ideas rolling around in your head, like, or even 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, but like we just are so busy consuming that we don't have enough time to actually allow our brain to let the ideas out or to come up with
So true.
ideas. And
So
so
true.
that's kind of usually where I start with people is it's like, okay, let's slow down the consumption. Let's
Yes.
find that low level, like what feels easiest for you right now to start creating. And then obviously, yeah, the mindset stuff of like, where are you hating this? What do you like? What are the limiting beliefs you have around content? Let's
Hmm.
address those because those are important too.
Yeah, I definitely find my walks are probably where I get some of the best ideas. That or a good long drive. Sometimes I don't have the time for a walk, but I'm
Yes.
driving to see a client or
Hmm.
something, and those are always really good as well. And I find like I love when those ideas come to me, and I've got a bit of a social bank where I just kind of jot them down. I can come back to them another
Absolutely.
time because I might not be able to hit record right then and there. But if I'm out on a walk, I usually will hit record on a walk if an idea comes to me. And I'll just like record a quick little video or whatever, because I do
Yeah.
find it is a great way to show up. But you're so right that we do need that free space in our mind. And I tell my clients the same thing when it comes to getting clarity about anything, not just
Yeah.
not just your content, but if you're struggling with a way to handle a team member, or if you're not sure a direction to take your business in, or how to evaluate an opportunity that's come up, go for a walk, clear your head. Even if it's a matter of just even like shower time. I know that sounds silly, but
Yes.
like shower time, you can't do anything. You're
Yeah.
like, usually I guess some people have radios or whatever in the shower, but like ideally it's kind of a soundless time, and you can get into your head a little bit and really work through some things. But I think sometimes we're almost afraid to be alone with our own thoughts, and
Oh,
yet
yeah.
That's
All the
key.
time. Yes. And
Hmm.
often when I am like most resistant to the walk, where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this today, is like when I need it the most.
Absolutely.
So yeah, usually that resistance shows you that maybe this is what you should be doing.
Right. So I've watched some people like kind of what you were saying earlier, like you can tell when someone's energy is a little bit off and they're kind of like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then every once in a while I'll see that same person just do kind of an off the cuff like video online or something. Or maybe it's not a video, but it's some sort of other post. And it doesn't feel like AI wrote it. It doesn't feel like they were forcing it. It just feels so raw and easy. And it could be the simplest thing about their kid's t-ball game or whatever, but it just feels super raw, real, emotional. But I think there's a fine line sometimes that we're walking between
Hmm.
showing up real and having like a personal diary space online as well. So
Yeah.
how do we kind of balance that? I want to be real online, but I don't really want to turn my business into like my own personal diary or therapy session.
Totally no. And that is, yeah, I get this question a lot in terms of like what people want to share about their personal life, is so different for each person. And being yourself online doesn't have to mean that you show your personal life. Like I know a lot of people who don't show those things, but that doesn't mean that they aren't authentically themselves online. And a lot of it comes down to the way you write your captions, your brand voice, like the energy you show up with, what you're recording, like how you're showing it, and allowing that to come through. Usually where people struggle the most is with their voice and how they're writing, and allowing that to actually feel like them. And when you can figure that part out, that's usually where it actually starts feeling a little bit more like you. Yeah, that's where I would say like most of my clients come to me with is like struggling with the writing and then the post ideas, because a lot of
Mhm.
times you're trying to force someone else's ideas and strategy onto yourself and your business, and that's not you, and that's
Right.
not authentic to who you are. And so it's finding that balance, and that's why I work with people so like personally, because it is such a personal thing, and yet we're all out
Mhm.
here trying to pretend like we all need to be following the same strategy and doing the exact same thing on social media to be successful, and that's just so not true.
So true. And I know for myself, there are certain elements of my personal life that I keep mostly to myself and my
Yeah.
closest friends. So of course those ones aren't going online, but there are other things that I've noticed when I share them online, people really connect with them.
Yeah.
And some could just be about one of my cats. Other times, I mean, I'm an avid runner. Everyone on this show who's ever listened to the show probably knows this because I mention it almost every episode that I'm an avid runner because I'm kind of addicted to it. But so of course I'm going to put some of those posts onto my social media
Mhm.
as well. Sometimes it's just a, hey, here's a cool story about my run kind of post. And other times I might relate it to business or to
Yeah.
something else that's going on and find a cool kind of twist on it of, this made me think of this and how we show up for our business every day, or how we show up for our clients and our family, and balancing as an entrepreneur. So those are all things that I can incorporate, but I don't always have to circle my personal stuff
Right.
back to the business. If I can, great. But I feel like sometimes people are trying too hard to say, like, this
Mm.
reminds me of.
Yeah. Sometimes it's okay to just share something and like allow that to be enough. Like it doesn't
Exactly.
have to be a sales post or connect to your offer, and if
Right.
it can, that's great, but it's not like something, yeah,
Sure.
you should have to force. And yeah, I feel like also with personal stuff, like a great place to show that is stories versus feeling like you have to put it on your
Hmm.
posts, and the more you can kind of show up on stories and be like, this is what I'm up to and this is what I'm doing. And again, it doesn't have to be your whole life. It doesn't have to be everything, but that also can kind of help you open the door to being yourself more online. And it's such a low level like effort. And I
Right.
feel like people feel less, they usually my clients will come to me worried about like judgment and stuff from people. And usually stories is where they feel like they can at least start that process of being themselves because it's only up for 24 hours. Not as many people see it, it's like lower
Right.
risk.
Exactly, yeah. And I actually feel like my stories often perform better than a lot of my posts because there are a lot of people who specifically go through, like, they want to watch the stories
Yeah.
because of exactly that. They're just these short little insights into someone's life, and they tend to be a little bit more personal as opposed to the more curated posts
Yeah.
sometimes. So that kind of leads me to my next question because you talk about breaking some of the so-called rules that are out there. And
Yes.
I love when we disrupt things a little bit. I love breaking rules. And it's actually kind of funny because I am a rule follower in a lot of ways. Like, I am not
Yeah.
going to go out of my way to break the law, for example. Like, oh no, the
No.
laws are in place for a good reason, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But when it comes to business, I have broken a ton of rules over the years. And standards that are set by different industries and such, I'm happy to say, like, you know what, let's throw that out and start all over. Or if I were to start over, what would that look like? And it might be similar to what the rules are, but have my own twist on it. How do you help women to break the rules? And what are maybe some of the rules that people are following online that you want them to like actively break?
Yeah, no, I love this conversation because it's so important. And because like I always start with, okay, but like who decided these rules? You know? Like
Right.
these are just like, especially when it comes to social media, I'm like, y'all like who's like the all-knowing
But
person
the
who set these
algorithm,
rules?
Abby, the
And
algorithm.
I'm like, no, that's like, I get it. Like, yes, some things, like there's certain strategies and stuff sometimes that do help, obviously, with showing up in the algorithm. But like, even if you throw all those out the window, your post might actually work better because somebody connects with the realness in your post versus like what you think you're supposed to do. And so I
Right.
always start there because I'm like, who decided these, you guys? Like, and no, you don't have to subscribe to them because there's so much stuff out there where it's like, oh, post 3 reels a day to, grow your account. Like I hate that stuff because it's just like this hustle culture that you don't actually have to follow to show up on social media. So definitely one of the bigger ones that I feel like a lot of us try to like promote is to like focus on quality over quantity and not feel like you have to show up all the time. Like I always tell my clients to start really, lower, like 2 posts a
Hmm.
week, even like you can always add to it, but let's be realistic with what actually fits in your life. And outside of content, I run into this a lot with like brand and web design, even because I have clients who like think they can't have a luxury brand and it be really bright and bold and colorful, or that they can't, have swear words on their website if they want to attract a high level client, or, like those types of things where I'm like, no, these are like, yeah, maybe that's what used to work, like these neutral, boring luxury websites. I'm like, yawn. No one wants to see that anymore. Like it's so overdone. And just because you work with a high level client doesn't mean you can't, have pink on your website or like be bright and beautiful and talk the way you would actually talk. And so a lot of it definitely comes down to like what these clients think are the rules, that again, who put those in place and then breaking them
Yes.
down. But yeah, I see it on both sides for sure because, and I'm sure you see it in business too. Like I feel the same way with business. Like I haven't, necessarily built my business the way you could or you're supposed to or whatever, the way other people have. And I think a lot of it also comes down to, even like as women, we're so intuitive and we're so like, if you actually listen to yourself, like what you think to be true is going to be the best thing for you, regardless of if it's technically
Yeah.
following the
Trusting
rules
that.
or not. Yeah. And so like finding ways to trust that and come up with your own rules for what that means.
And you know what? That reminds me of a story about very early in my life when I learned what showing up as my real self could actually do for me and how that benefited me for the rest of my adult life. So I'm going to tell that story in just a moment. We're just going to take a quick break here and listen to this quick message.
We'll be right back after this quick message. This episode of the Real Women, Real Business podcast is brought to you by, well, potentially you. Are you a brand or service that supports passionate female entrepreneurs who are ready to turn their vision into profit without the stress and overwhelm? Perhaps you're an accidental CEO yourself, now on a mission to make work and life easier for fellow passion-driven boss ladies. Our podcast is experiencing an exciting 30% month-over-month growth, reaching entrepreneurs who are building stronger, working smarter, and dreaming bigger. We have limited partnership opportunities available for brands that align with our mission of redefining how working hard looks and feels. Visit aboutshaunalynn.com/partner to learn more about becoming a partner in our rapidly growing show. And welcome back to the Real Women, Real Business podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Real Women, Real Business podcast, where we are chatting with Abby Bradetich about online strategies, but not in the traditional let's post 16 times a week kind of way, but more in the how do we show up authentically online. And so we were just talking about how, trusting our gut sometimes and really lean into what is, instead of what are the rules that everybody else wants us to follow, what is it like to actually be ourselves? And you were mentioning about how on people's websites, especially, they feel like they want to show up the way that they are supposed to show up. And back in high school, I found myself trying to fit in.
Mm.
And I didn't really feel like myself. I didn't really feel like I was representing myself in the best way. I wasn't happy. I actually dealt with a little bit of depression during that time as well. And so then I moved away for university. And when I was in university, from pretty much day one, I was like, nobody has any expectations of me here. No one has any preconceived ideas of who I am here. And I'm just going to be me. And what I found with that was that I attracted other like-minded people. I attracted the people who I wanted in my life. And I have some of those relationships to this day. And don't get me wrong, I had some great relationships in high school, and I still have those to this day as well. I'm not saying my whole high school years were miserable or anything like that, but I always felt that there was this sort of expectation of me that I could never quite fit into. Like, it's like the clothes didn't quite fit. And when I got into university, everything seemed to fit well because I was finally just being myself. So then fast forward to when I started my own business, and I've had, so anyone who's watched on the video version, I have pink hair, partially pink hair, and I have had this since, I like to say, since before it was cool. I started doing this actually back in 2007 was when I started coloring my hair pink. So almost 20 years ago now. So like I said, like literally like before it was cool. There were not a lot of people out there with pink hair at that time. But it was something that as soon as I started doing it, like, oh, it just felt like me. Like it was just a part of who I was and a part of my brand. So when I launched my business in 2008, I got my first set of headshots done, and I temporarily removed the pink to get my headshots done because I felt like no one's going to take me seriously if I have pink hair. And I never felt less like myself. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like immediately I put the pink back in my hair. And when I'm showing up to my client appointments, they're loving it. Like and people are resonating with me. They're feeling like I'm more creative and authentic. So this was my home staging business. And so what do you want in a home stager? You want someone who's creative. You want someone who has that designer eye. Well, someone who's showing up with pink hair probably is a little bit eccentric, let's just say, and is probably going to have a better eye for things because I'm a little less structured. And so that was really landing with people. Once I learned that, I really started to lean into it. And that's when my business really changed, was when I finally identified that this is what people actually want from me. And I've never looked back on that. I've always shown up authentically. Do I filter some things out? Sure. Yeah. But I'm the first one to tell my clients about the mistakes that I made. Even currently, like I don't always reflect back on like, oh, well, 10 years ago I made this mistake, but I would never do that again. I'm still making all the mistakes that I tell you not to make. I am catching myself doing them. The difference is that I'm sharing very openly when I see myself making these mistakes and sharing how I caught myself, how I fixed it. And if I didn't fix it yet, it's a work in progress. I'm sharing that as well because people want to see that. Like I'll admit that there was a time where I thought that to be a business coach, you had to be perfect and have all the answers. And I soon realized that wasn't the case either. And the more I share about the fact that, listen, I don't have all the answers, but I know a lot of things about a lot of things that I think can really help people. And I do it in a way where I really dig into what's personally impacting you and how can I make it so that you're building a business that works for you and not against you. And since leaned into that more, again, my coaching business thrives. So anytime I have tried to go against my natural grain, I have found that it does not work for me. So I don't know who needs to hear this today, but if those 3 examples aren't enough for you, I could probably find 16 more for you. Like
I could too. I had a very similar experience. I like when I first started my business, I tried to like keep dance and embodiment stuff like out of it because I was like, this doesn't make sense. It's not online presence based. Like people aren't going to take me seriously if I'm dancing. And like I had kind of tried at the beginning and then I was like, no, this doesn't work. And of course, whenever I tried to do the videos at the beginning of me dancing, like I would like choreograph them and I'd like get all dressed up and like redo it like 16 times. And I'm like, and so then I stopped doing it because I was like, this is way too much effort. And it didn't feel good anyway because I was performing them. Like I was like overdoing it. And so I had like taken it out of my business for a little while. And like, I think it was in 2023, I was finally like, no, this is who I am. I'm going to bring this back in, but do it in a way that actually feels good because I still dance for myself like all the time. most
Love
like
it.
several days a week, I'll just put up my camera and record myself doing it in my bedroom. And then that just basically is the B-roll for the reel, you know? Like I'm just like, I don't
Perfect.
have to try in order to do this. It's just a part of who I am. So I'm going to incorporate it. But yeah, I felt the same thing where it was like, oh, I can't do that. It's not professional or it doesn't look good or I have to make sure it's perfect. And, you know, I
Hmm.
definitely was perfectionist people pleaser growing up. I think a lot of women are, and
Yes.
especially business owners. Like I've, talked to so many people who have gone through that too. And yeah, it's really about like making that choice. I feel like I've had a lot of conversations about this lately with people about like, you actually get to make the choice. And it's so powerful. And I think often we try to kind of give that power away to like, the rules out there in the world, but really like, yeah, you get to make your own rules. You get to make the choices that feel good to
Yes.
you and then allow that to be enough.
Yes, and it's actually funny that you say that because I just recently released an episode that talks exactly about how to stop people pleasing because it's something
Mm,
that we all find ourselves doing, and I've caught myself doing it even when I don't think I'm doing it.
yeah.
That's how ingrained it is in us, and I find that every time I make sure that saying yes serves me and serves the person that I'm trying to help, that's when it works. If it just serves them, it drains me. They're
Yeah.
not happy. I'm not happy. Like it doesn't come out the way, like it's all these, I should do this. I
Hmm.
should be that. Screw all of that. Like,
Yeah. If you're thinking should, then don't do it. Like
then don't
already,
do
that's just a
it.
sign.
But this comes, so bringing it back to the online marketing though, I see this all the time from my clients like, well, I have to do this and I should be doing this. And I remember many years ago I read a book, it was called Triggers by Marshall Goldman, I want to say. We will make sure in the show notes that that is corrected if I am completely wrong on that, because I feel like that doesn't so quite sound right. But in any case, the name of the book is definitely Triggers. And one of the things that he talks about, and this has always stuck with me because I really loved this, um, he says, if you are saying, I have to do something, you shouldn't be doing it.
Mm,
And that goes for like, oh, I have to drive my kids to soccer. No, I get to drive my kids to soccer.
mhm.
And I remember for anyone who's been listening to the show for a while, I'm sure they've heard me talking about my dad. My dad had MS for about 30 years. He was in a wheelchair for over 20 of those years. It required full-time care. And I was a big part of his care. And I was, my mom and I shared the caregiving duties. And that meant a lot of long days and a lot of time with my dad. And not once did I ever say, I have to look after my dad. It was always, I'm going to look after my dad. I get to look after my dad. I get to spend time with him. But
Mm,
never did I ever say, I have to do this, because that would have taken everything out of it that was authentic and real to it. So going back to the marketing side of things, when my clients are saying, well, I have to post 3 times a week. I should be doing this. To your point earlier, says who? Who
yeah.
made those rules? Like, if that's not natural for you, if it's stressing you out, I know clients that get absolutely paralyzed by trying to come up with all these ideas. You just spent 3 hours doing nothing, trying to figure out what to do when you could
Yeah.
have actually been doing something productive that maybe has nothing to do with content, if that's where you felt you needed to spend your energy that day. So I think it can be something, having someone like you as a content coach to be able to help them pull those ideas out. I think that's where so many people get stuck of like, but I have
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah.
That's who.
Absolutely. Yeah, says who literally. Yeah, I feel that all the time and often like yeah, it is that like paralysis of you think you have an idea but you don't trust it or you're not confident enough to try it or you're not really sure how to make it into something.
Hmm.
And so that's where a lot of like times I help my clients because they're like, what could I do with this? Does this make sense? Like, is this a good idea? Or like even like having someone look at your caption. That's what I do for people too. Like I'll like literally read their captions and edit them and be like, this part doesn't sound like you. Would you actually say this? Like,
Hmm.
where can we fit in more of that? And it's really about like almost just needing, it's like with anything with coaching, it's like, I've always prioritized investing in a business coach because I felt the same way of like needing that feedback, needing that just like,
Yes.
yes, you can do this. And sometimes you really just like, if you can't give yourself the permission that you need, then you just need an external person to be able to do that for you. And you'll get better at giving yourself the permission to be yourself. But it is hard work. And so that's why I love helping women do it because like I'm so passionate about people just getting to be themselves and allowing it to be enough, and like not thinking that you have to be anything other than that. Like it's just that I'm so passionate about it. I just could talk about it all day. So I
Well,
love
and one of the things that I love that you touched on though was just the sense of, the community and having other people as a sounding board and
yeah.
supporting you. And I don't know where we ever gotten in our heads that we have to do all of these things by ourselves. That is actually not historically, that is not how our species, so to speak, evolved. Like
Literally.
we've always been, these gatherers in this community that, like, why do we think we have to do all the things ourselves? At what point in society did women start being told that they had to take on all the things all by themselves? And
Hmm.
so why not bring in someone like yourself who can really help to support that? And oh my gosh, just imagine how much easier it would be, for
Hmm.
anyone who has the support of a significant other for parenting, for example. You know what it's like to be able to have that other person. Can you
Yeah,
imagine doing it by yourself? Well, why are you doing your business by yourself then? Why
literally.
don't we have the support? So, okay, so for someone who's maybe a little bit still scared to be seen, and by seen, I don't mean just like literally showing up online. I mean really seen. Like, what's a small first step for them to kind of stop holding back who they really are without swinging into that kind of overshare mode?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, almost like I said before, like starting on stories is usually where I kind of try to encourage
Mm,
people. And even honestly, like if it feels good and you like to talk, like getting on podcasts, I will say like that was honestly starting my own podcast and going on other people's podcasts. And before that, I was doing Instagram lives. Like I knew I could talk, but doing that really like I don't know, it gave me that sense of I really know who I am. I really know what I want to talk about, like, and I'm good
hmm.
at it, especially if you like listen back, you're like, wow, I actually am good at talking about these things. Like, I guess I do know what I'm saying. And so for me, like talking about it really helped. I know for some people it's like, doing Substack and things like that. And those I find that there's more freedom in the long form content than the
Hmm.
short form, and sometimes it's easier to find yourself and how to show up as yourself in the longer form and then be able to translate it to shorter form. But if you're just doing content, yeah, showing up on stories can be really helpful. And even just like if you struggle with writing, one of the things I like to recommend is like recording your caption and listening to it back. Is that actually something you would say? Does it actually sound like you,
Oh, that's good.
or
Yeah.
like talking your caption out loud to begin with, like voice noting yourself. I do that all the time because that was where I found the most trouble. Like I'm a good writer, I'm a good speaker, but the two did never matched for me.
Hmm.
And especially in this world of AI, so many people like will just copy and paste something from ChatGPT. And I'm like, you can use ChatGPT for ideas and to help get you started, but you
Yes.
always have to then read it out loud, infuse your personality into it. And that can be, even just in small ways you write or things you would say, but also like, yeah, reading it out loud and listening back. It has been one of the biggest tools for me in like finding how to actually make my voice feel like me.
That's a really good tip. I really like that. The other thing that you mentioned that I really liked was about the long form content and being able to pull the shorter form content out of that. And it's so
Mhm.
true. So for anyone who's not familiar with Abby's podcast, she is the host of the Unfiltered CEO podcast, which I was had the pleasure of being a guest on as
Yeah.
well. And she does do a phenomenal job in her. You'll love her interview style. So definitely check it out. But I would say that, yes, getting onto podcasts gives you those little sound bites too. Like you
Yeah.
don't even have to record anything else. I will admit there are weeks where we get a little lazy sometimes with my content, and all you see on my feed is basically my podcast
Yeah.
reels. But I mean, at least I've always got something to put out there. Sure, it's good
Hmm.
if I've got other content out there as well, but worst case, if I don't, I've got at least a couple of reels coming out every week. I do a minimum of 2 reels for every podcast that I do, and
Mm.
I've got podcasts coming out every week. So there's 2 reels, 2 posts automatically getting done. Take some of the pressure off for me. Now, I'm not saying everyone listening to
Absolutely.
this should go and start their own podcast. But
No.
if you guest on a podcast, you can also grab some clips from that podcast to share it.
Hmm.
Or even if you don't get the actual recording from it, you can take something that you spoke about on the podcast, do a quick little video, or
Yeah.
just even a static post to say,
Yeah.
this is what I talked about on this podcast recently. DM me this word and I'll send you, or
The link
comment
of
this
it.
word or whatever, and I'll
Yeah.
send you the link to the full episode. And it really helps to build up your authority, your credibility, as well as giving you that content that you so desperately need without having to really overthink it. Because I think to your
Yeah.
point, like it's a lot easier sometimes for someone to have a conversation like this rather than, oh, I need to come up with six
Yeah,
ideas this week for new things to talk
absolutely.
about. And
If
the
you
other
start there,
thing,
it's hard to be like,
exactly,
I'm gonna sit down and come up with content ideas. Like no one creates good content from that
right.
place. Not at
And
all.
the other thing I always tell my clients, and I'd love to get your take on this, but one of the things I always tell my clients is don't be afraid to say the same thing twice, three times, four times, six times. People don't always see the first one, even if they do, they want to hear it again. Don't literally put the exact same image with the exact same
Mm-mm.
caption, but why are we constantly trying to come up with a new idea when we can just build on previous ideas that we've already shared?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I talk about that a lot with people, and I even shared a post about that I think at the start of this year of like, don't
Oh,
forget you can repeat yourself. Like, and literally someone was like, "Oh, thank you for telling me this." I feel like because
yes.
people often they're like, "Oh, I think I'm saying the same thing too much." And I'm like, "I promise you're not." Research actually shows that it takes 7 times of someone hearing something for it to
Sure
stick.
does.
And so if like I promise you probably haven't said it 7 times in the last month. And even still, even if you have, like you could say it in different ways, like you said,
Yeah.
and really that it's not like annoying for people because like you said, people are either not going to see it. And even if they do see it, what that does is build your authority and it turns you into a leader of that concept and of like
Exactly.
creating that impact that you want to have. And that's where like honestly where I start with people with content is like especially if they feel like they have a lot of offers and they're all over the place and they have all these ideas like what is the one thing you want to be known for? And like for me, it's empowering women to show up online in a way that feels good and is authentic to them, period. And you know what? So many things fall under that: social media, brand and web design, mindset,
Sure.
embodiment. All of the things I want to talk about fall under this umbrella. So if you can figure out what your umbrella is, then it makes creating content so much easier. It makes running your business so much easier. Like everything becomes easier whenever you know what that is. And then that's just what you speak on over and over and over. Like people probably are tired of me talking about that type of stuff, but like they also love it. Like that's why people follow me, and that's why they
Yes.
keep wanting to work with me and are attracted to that energy because they're like, yeah, that's what I want. And it's because I say it all the time and I'm not afraid to keep repeating myself.
Well, think about the clarity that that gives, though. People
Yes.
know exactly how to work with you and why they're going to work with you. And
Exactly.
we actually talked about this when I guested on your podcast about the value of having a niche and really speaking to your people.
Hmm.
And I think people are just constantly so afraid that they're going to eliminate someone by speaking too
Yeah.
directly to someone else. But the reality is so that you're not going to connect with anyone if everything is very abstract and vague. Whereas if you're getting specific and you're telling them exactly what it is that you're going to do for them and how you work with them, what your value is, what you bring to the table, and what they get out of it, then they're going to connect with that as opposed to just saying like, well, I do a lot of like marketing type stuff and
Yeah.
like that's not going to really resonate with them. But
No.
when they understand like, oh, like I really want to be real online. I feel like, that's I'm missing the mark on that. I need to work with someone who's going to allow me to be me. Because I think a lot of people when they hire any sort of marketing strategist, coach, or whatever, they're often feeling like it's not going to be my voice. But
Yeah.
you're literally what you're saying is that this is how you've built your whole business is making sure that they get their voice and
Yeah.
a voice that really is going to resonate with their audience. So I think that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Fantastic.
like you said, yeah, it just makes everything literally easier. And who
Everything's
doesn't want
easier,
that?
right? The more clear you are on the value that you bring and what you offer, and the more that you can share that with your audience, the more they're going to connect with you. It's really that
Absolutely.
simple. And I mean, is it easy? No, but it is
Mm.
simple.
Yes. Yeah. Two different things. And it
Two
does
different
take some
things.
figuring out to know what that is for you.
Absolutely.
And I actually, yeah, have a client who I've been working with for a while with content coaching. And when we were figuring out what she wants to be known for, like, 5 months ago, like now she's come back to me and she's like, okay, I'm like, because I know what that is and I'm showing up in that way, like now I want my whole business to actually represent that. And now we can create a
Yes.
website that actually speaks that way for her because she's gotten so clear on what that is. And it used to be that she was super specialized and now she wants to be a little bit different or include more things.
Mhm.
And so it is like it opens up the door for other possibilities too, instead of like I feel like, yeah, with, like the conversation we had about niching down, people often think it like puts them in this box, but I actually think that when you know what you want to be known for, and you know how to communicate that and the type of people you want to work with, it actually opens up like freedom in the
Sure
space for
does.
you to be able to then do all these other things that maybe you never thought you would do. Like I never really thought I'd start a podcast, and that's a huge part of what I do now, and I absolutely
Right.
love it, And so, yeah, it just like gives you that freedom while also, yeah, making it clear. But like you said, it is difficult to do. It takes some work to kind of figure that out.
Well, and I think one of the things too is that if you are finding that the people that you are working with, or the jobs that you're doing, the projects you're taking on, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're finding that it's not enjoyable, if you're not
Mhm.
liking the people, if you're not liking the work, then you're not showing up as the real you. Because
Yeah.
if you were really showing them exactly who you are and what you do, they're going to connect with that, and you're going to attract and draw in the right people. If you're bringing in the wrong people, you're probably not showing up the way you should be.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
just
I
used the word
used to
should
have
there,
that
but you know what I
too.
mean.
Like yourself, yeah.
Like
I actually
yourself.
used to hear that all the time, was people would get on a call with me or like meet me in person and be like, "Oh, you're so much more fun. You have so much more energy than I expected." And I was like, "Okay, well, something's not translating here from my online presence then,
Right.
because like you should get that energy from the
Yeah.
jump." And so then once I really worked on that, like now that's, people literally will tell me when they follow me, like, "Oh, I, loved your energy. I just really liked what you were talking about," like stuff like that. Like that's literally what we all want. And it's not
Yeah.
because I followed other people's rules. It's because I like trusted myself and just kept leaning more and more into that. And so, yeah, it's fun, I think, and like who doesn't want to just be themselves? Like what a great thing.
Exactly. Isn't it more fun? Like, oh my gosh, you can breathe. Like just the thought
Takes the
of
pressure
it
off.
takes so much energy to be someone else. I don't want to
Yes.
do that. That just
Mm-mm.
sounds exhausting to me.
No, and who wants to build a business that way either? Like, no,
No.
thank you. I've
No,
done that.
thank
I
you.
tried that. I'm sure you have too. Like, we've all probably tried that at the beginning. You think it's
Sure.
supposed to be some certain way, and then it's like, yeah, you're just, I don't know. For me, it felt like this just whole process of like peeling back the layers, and like, and it's these small steps
Yeah.
that really lead to you feeling like, okay, I am like, this is who I am, and I really am confident in sharing that, and I am doing that.
Yeah, and like I'll admit for myself, the clients that I work with, I don't tend to work with people who are just starting out in their business because, frankly, they haven't gone through enough and experienced some
Yeah,
of
I
um,
feel that
these sort of
too.
waves of things to know who they are, what they want to be, and what they want to do. Now, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, when my clients are coming to me, they still don't have those answers, but they are well positioned for us to find those answers
Yeah, they've
together.
tried things and
They've
yeah.
tried some things and they've got, and to kind of going back to your point earlier where you're like you can pull out these content ideas that people didn't even know that they had, the ideas of who you want to be online, the ideas of the type of business that you want to build, the services you want to offer, the way that you want to offer them, all of those things, those are in you already. you
Yes.
you just need the ability to be able to tap into them. And that's often where a coach is going to come in, whether it's a content coach, a sustainability coach, a marketing coach,
Hmm.
a wellness coach, whatever it is that you're struggling with, it's already in you, but working with the right coach will help to pull that out of you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. We've definitely gone a little bit over our time that we normally do, which I'm not upset about at all because this has been very unfiltered and raw and real. So, if someone's listening to this episode today and there's one thing that they can take away from today's episode, what is sort of that one takeaway that you want them to leave with?
Well, it'll be no surprise, but like really trusting yourself and allowing who you are to be enough. I find that we often all struggle with that idea of not being good enough, and that's why we, try these other people's rules and strategies and try to make ourselves be something we're not. And the more that you can believe that you're enough just the way you are right now, like that's all you really need. That's the power you need to really be you in all aspects of your life.
I think that's a message that we can't hear often enough is
Yeah.
that we are enough because I think we set these standards for ourselves, these expectations that are almost impossible to achieve. So we feel like we're never enough. We're never
Yeah.
doing enough. We're never being enough. And the reality is that you are just as you are and just show up like that. Does it mean
Yeah.
that you can't continue to grow? Of course not.
Absolutely.
Like, but know that you are enough today, and anything that comes after that is bonus.
Yes.
Yeah, beautifully said. Wonderful. Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining me today. I have so enjoyed this whole conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And if you're listening to this episode, what we're saying today is resonating with you, then I hope that you will tune in again next week. Allow us to continue to be a part of your journey. We drop new episodes every Tuesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. And so I hope that you will continue to tune in. Don't forget to leave us a review wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform as well. And until next time, keep thriving, everyone.